Okay, to review graphing cosine, the graph of positive cosine, if you remember, starts at a maximum, okay? And so when we are writing a cosine equation, we're going to pick points that are maximums, okay? So I'm going to pick this point. It is a maximum, so it's a positive cosine graph. It's a positive cosine point. So if I look at this one, the same thing, all this information is the same. Since it's a maximum, it's positive 2, okay? And you look at where it shifted. It shifted over 3/6, which reduces to 1/2. And since it's on this side of the y-axis, we're going to put a subtraction sign. And this would be my answer. Now, let's say I wanted to pick a point on the left side of the y-axis. Let's say that I wanted to pick this point right there. It's the same thing, okay? It's a positive cosine graph because it's a maximum, but we have to figure out how far it shifted, okay? Which would be -1/6, -2, -3, -4, -5, 6 over, okay? But just look at the absolute value of this. It shifted over 5/6 units, okay? And because it's on this side of the y-axis, we're going to say plus, because that will shift the parent function to the left, if you remember your transformations of parent functions. Okay, so that's how you graph positive cosine. If you look at negative cosine, review graphing. If you remember this graph right here, this is negative cosine. Negative cosine starts at a minimum. Okay, so when we graph negative cosine, we're looking for points that are at minimums. Okay, so you look at, let's say this one. Okay, if we want to write a negative cosine graph from there to show that it's reflected, okay, you just put a -2. That means it's a negative cosine graph. That means it's a minimum. Okay, now it's on this side of the y-axis, so we're going to put a plus, and the value is 1/6, so it shifted over to the left 1/6, and we're showing that it's a negative because it's a minimum. If I want to do the exact same thing, a negative cosine graph from this point, okay? Now it's a negative cosine graph, so that stays the same. But now I'm on the right side of the y-axis. I'm over here, so it's going to be a negative sign, and the value that I shifted over is 7/6. So that would be my answer. I've written several equations for sine and several equations for cosine. You just have to write one of them, or two if I tell you to. But one of each is typically what the directions are going to say. But there's an infinite number of points that you could pick to write any of these equations with.